So South Park is no stranger to killing Kenny. I mean, the poor kid dies more often than I skip a leg day.
Look out! Oops.
See? But there's always a reset button, right? Kenny bites it, the credits roll, and he's back the very next episode like nothing even happened. But then, in Season 5, Episode 13, simply titled Kenny Dies, the writers decided to take things a bit differently, and let's just say they delivered a gut punch that viewers, and really all of South Park, definitely did not see coming.
You're gonna love these fetuses, Larry. They're top notch.
And then there's Cartman being, well, Cartman. Ah, boy. So the episode kicks off on a very bizarre note, with Cartman stumbling upon a literal truckload of aborted fetuses intended for stem cell research. Cartman, convinced he's sitting on biological Bitcoin, tries to rope in Stan, Kyle, and Kenny into his latest get-rich-quick scheme. But even by Cartman's standards, flipping fetal stem cells feels like a bridge very too far, so the boys promptly dip out, leaving Cartman alone with his ethically sketchy startup dreams.
Fine. I don't need you. I can sell these fetuses all on my own.
Yeah, context doesn't even really save this one. Meanwhile, in what feels like a completely separate universe, Stan and Kyle get called to Principal Victoria's office. Expecting more trouble from Cartman's morally bankrupt side hustle, they're instead blindsided by some genuinely heartbreaking news.
Boys, your little friend Kenny went to the hospital last night, okay? He's pretty sick.
Stan immediately sinks into denial, insisting Kenny will pull through. Kyle's already bracing himself for the worst, but perhaps most surprising is Cartman's reaction. When Stan and Kyle tell him the news, he looks genuinely shaken.
They told us he has a muscular disease and that he might die. Die? Kenny? Don't you say that. Kenny's not gonna die.
Abandoned fetuses are being sold in this episode, and somehow Cartman showing genuine care is the weirdest thing that I've seen here. So the three boys visit Kenny in the hospital, where they finally confirm for themselves the bitter truth. At the hospital, reality hits hard. Stan bolts out, overwhelmed, leaving Kyle to follow. Cartman stays behind, and in a rare, strangely touching moment, opens up to Kenny. He tells him that he's always considered him his best friend, considering Stan and Kyle are like Siamese twins, while promising to find a cure for Kenny's illness. He then bolts out of the room to cry, at which point a returning Kyle spots him.
Cartman? Oh, Kyle. Hey, what's going down, Jew boy?
Inspired, or at least pretending to be inspired to save Kenny, Cartman dives headfirst into stem cell research. Turns out those cells can repair damaged tissues, meaning they could potentially save Kenny's life. Cartman even goes as far as passionately lobbying Congress to lift the stem cell ban, complete with a tear-jerking song.
Do you remember when we used to dance? And incidents arose from circumstance.
And that, folks, is the power of music. Miraculously, Congress actually caves and lifts the ban, but this is South Park, and happy endings don't come cheap. Despite Cartman's strangely noble hustle, Kenny's time actually runs out. He passes away, leaving Stan and Kyle to mourn their friend until Cartman arrives at Kenny's funeral with big news. The boys rush outside thinking it has something to do with Kenny.
What, Cartman? What's happened? I put the stem cells from all the fetuses I had next to Shakey's, and they are replicating a new Shakey's.
Guess it's still a South Park plotline after all. So yeah, Kenny's death was about to get very real, and by the time we enter Season 6 with Jared has AIDS, it becomes pretty clear just how permanent Kenny's demise is.
Oh, AIDS, AIDS.
Yep, hooray for AIDS!
So there's a whole lot of misconceptions in this episode, and let's just say that Jared over here is long overdue a communications class. Anyway, the episode opens up with the boys prank calling City Walk because, of course, nothing heals grief like harassing an overworked restaurant owner, but their lowbrow fun gets interrupted by a commercial starring Jared Fogle. You know, the dude who lost hundreds of pounds eating sandwiches. Welcome to America, I guess. Butter strolls in, and it's immediately clear that no one's ready to move on from Kenny just yet.
Hey, fellas. Hey, Kenny. No, gosh darn it, my name's not Kenny. Okay, not Kenny.
The boys head downtown to meet Jared, who's making a speech about how easy it is to lose weight eating nothing but sandwiches, but already sounds fishy. When the boys get to hang backstage, Jared drops the world's least subtle bombshell.
Eating sub sandwiches was a big part of it, but the way that I lost so much weight was that I got AIDS.
And just like that, the entire episode takes a sharp left turn into Misunderstandingville. Someone get this man a PR team stat. Poor wording aside, turns out Jared isn't just a bad speaker, he's also a scammer. But instead of taking down Subway's golden boy, Cartman sees dollar signs. He immediately cooks up his own sketchy scheme, fattening up Butters to make him South Park's own Jared. And since this is Cartman we're dealing with here, you best believe things are about to go south. They managed to fatten up Butters, but as we know, gaining weight is a lot easier than losing it. So the boys resort to doing a homemade liposuction, and by that, I mean what you'd normally expect from a roadside mechanic.
There it goes. All right, it's working.
And if you guessed that Butters' parents storm in with perfect timing, then you're very much correct. Back in town, Jared is busy spreading the gospel of AIDS, and boy, does he dig himself into quite the hole. First, he tries to come clean about his AIDS to his fiancée. That actually backfires thanks to some misinterpretation, and when you think the man's about to finally clock what's wrong with his wording, he goes ahead and pretty much signs his death warrant.
I am going to personally see to it that every one of you gets AIDS.
While that's going on, the boys pull out to Butters' house to take him to the City Walk, to cash in on their advert deal. Only problem is, Butters is now grounded following his surgery escapades. With millions of dollars now at stake, the boys then quickly move on to Plan B, which in this case involves a little bit of arm twisting.
Kenny would have done it. Yep. You guys remember what a cool friend Kenny was? God, man, he was the best friend ever.
I mean, technically they aren't wrong. When the gaslighting fails, Cartman offers to cover for Butters at home, which, considering it's him, is bound to involve something that buries the poor kid.
What? Are you trying to get yourself in more trouble with that kind of language?
Loosen up, you bloody belch.
Hey, say what you will about Cartman, but his commitment to chaos is Olympic level. Anywho, the boys arrive at City Walk to collect their big payday, but plot twist, Jared's ruined his own reputation so badly, City Walk wants absolutely nothing to do with a Jared-type campaign. It is at that point that Stan and Kyle are filled in on what old Jared has been up to. Luckily for the man, just before South Park goes full Salem witch trials on him, Stan and Kyle arrive in time to clear things up. They explain the whole assistant AIDS confusion, Jared's off the hook, and just like that, AIDS, yes, actual AIDS, is officially declared funny. Thank frick.
Tom, I'm standing in the town square where it was declared that AIDS can finally be joked about. What a great day for humanity.
Leave it to South Park to squeeze in something absurd each episode. With that mess cleared up, the boys resume their plans to cash in on Butters. They approach Tu Wong for the money, and he hands them a whopping $15. Who knew a local business couldn't pay like a nationwide franchise? Good planning there, boys. The boys realize that maybe exploiting someone for weight loss fame isn't that great, but hey, at least AIDS is finally funny, and somehow that feels perfectly on brand. So Butters is pretty much Kenny's replacement at this point, poor guy, but it doesn't last for long, as we see in Season 6, Episode 6, Professor Chaos.
Prepare for the greatest supervillain you've ever seen, Professor Chaos!
And now we have Butters' villain arc. Long overdue, if you ask me. It all kicks off with Butters getting fired as Kenny's replacement. Yeah, it turns out friendship with Stan, Kyle, and Cartman is basically a corporate gig with zero benefits. The boys will literally sit him down and give him the good old, it's not you, it's us speech.
I'm afraid we're gonna have to let you go, as our friend. You're just too... lame. Lame, yes.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt. Devastated by getting friend-zoned by his actual friends, Butters spirals into full-on supervillain territory. He becomes Professor Chaos, a foil-wrapped nightmare set on causing very mild inconveniences to South Park. Oh, good heavens! And his reign of terror begins at the most diabolical place imaginable. Bennigan's. Soap mix-ups. Truly, we're witnessing villainy on par with Thanos here. Meanwhile, Stan, Kyle, and Cartman are busy running their own twisted version of The Bachelor, searching for a new friend. They narrow down the options through friend tests, starting with a cringe fest group outing at the amusement park. Jimmy initially impresses them, solely because being disabled gets them to the front of the line quicker, but he quickly blows his lead by needing extra assistance to get on said ride.
Hey, I'm gonna need some help.
Oh, shut her down. Someone needs assistance.
Oh, really? That's gonna cost some points.
I mean, it's Cartman, you just learn to take him as he comes. Back to Butters, though. Annoyed that his soup-swapping exploits don't make headlines, he escalates his evil plots to stealing chalkboard erasers at school. Absolute chaos, clearly. Until Miss Chalksendix just casually pulls out a backup eraser, completely foiling his master plan. With his confidence thoroughly shaken, Butters recruits Dougie as his villainous sidekick, General Disarray, proving there's someone out there for everyone, even if your idea of evil is wearing aluminum foil and mildly inconveniencing people. Their first big evil deed as a duo? Well, flooding the entire planet with a garden hose.
Watch as your precious planet drowns!
A brain as smooth as butter, folks. Anyway, back to Kenny's replacement saga. The friend selection nonsense continues as Stan, Kyle, and Cartman narrow it down to 6 candidates, complete with a swimsuit and talent competition. And yes, Tokus Hula Dance wins major points. After that round of auditions, the boys narrow their choices down. The finalists are the usual suspects, Token, Timmy, Jimmy, and for reasons no one understands, Towley, because nothing screams reliable friend like a sentient towel with a weed problem.
Towley's cool, but he gets stoned all the time. You can't really rely on him for anything.
Yeah, a stoned out towel, peak cartoon writing. Anyway, the boys finally make their pick. Tweek becomes Kenny's official replacement, solidifying his position as the most caffeinated kid on television. As for Professor Chaos, well, he tries one last scheme, destroying the ozone layer using hairspray cans. Brilliant! The world's as doomed as my chances with my high school crush.
Say goodbye to your precious ozone and hello to chaos.
Spoiler alert, the planet survives, but the episode isn't done yet, as it's revealed that someone in this episode has bitten the dust. It ends up being Miss Choxendick, because I guess there's just so long you can keep a name like that on public TV. With Tweek stepping up as Kenny's replacement, we head on over to the very next episode, Simpsons Already Did It, to see how well he fares in his new role.
They did that on The Simpsons. I think it was the Mr. Burns character. He tried to block Springfield from the sun.
Heck, I thought I was being original.
And that's how the episode got its name. The episode begins with Stan, Kyle, and Tweek playing in the snow and trying to build a snowman with a little bit of trouble on Tweek's part, at which Butters pops up, clearly still hurt from being kicked out of the group, and things get awkward real fast.
How are things going with your new best friend? Well, Tweek's no Kenny.
Yeah, but he's still better than you, Butters.
Yeah.
Talk about kicking a guy while he's down. At this point, just twist the knife, why don't you? Anyway, so Butters scampers off as Carpenter arrives just in time to babble about his next disaster of a plan. Turns out he found some magical creatures called sea people, who he believes will whisk him away from this terrible planet. He manages to convince the boys to crowdfund his latest plot and rushes to buy what he now sees as his golden Willy Wonka ticket.
Only 3 more hours, sea people. Only 3 more hours and you can take me away from this crappy goddamn planet full of hippies.
Basically how crypto bros talk about NFTs. But instead of magical underwater elves, he ends up with shrimp. Yeah, he literally bought fish food and thought he found Atlantis. Luckily, there's still use for the shrimp, as Cartman and the boys decide to prank their teacher by pouring the shrimp into her coffee. Seems harmless enough, right? Well, until she turns up dead the very next day, sending them spiraling into paranoia faster than your grandma discovering.
Alright, listen to me. We must take a strict vow of silence.
Jesus Christ, we killed her! Shh, Tweek, shut the hell up!
Dude really doesn't know what he signed up for as Kenny's replacement. Back in villain territory, Butters aka Professor Chaos desperately tries to come up with original evil plots, but since the Simpsons are pretty much ahead of everyone else, each plan he makes, from blocking at the sun to cutting the head off a town statue, ends up being dry ink from Matt Groening's pen. As for Cartman and the boys, well, let's just say they aren't having a great day either. News of their teacher's death becomes front page news, with reports showing that was found in her stomach. They mistake this for their sea people, leading to the single greatest confession in South Park history.
We need you to promise not to tell anybody.
Now, children, every problem can be worked out.
We killed our teacher and they found our in her stomach.
The kind of confession that lands you in Arkham Asylum. After scarring Chef for life, the boys break into the hospital morgue to retrieve their from the teacher's stomach. Cartman, unfazed by basic human decency, dives right into the corpse because, as we know, there's absolutely no line he won't cross to save his own skin. After stealing back their shrimp, they pour it back into Cartman's aquarium, and in peak South Park fashion, the shrimp mix with actual humans from the autopsy lab, creating an advanced underwater civilization. Yeah, evolution through Darwin would be proud.
Sea people plus equals society.
Honestly, the math checks out. In typical Cartman fashion, he quickly crowns himself god of this new sea society because, let's be honest, if anyone's gonna start a fueled cult, it's Cartman. But it doesn't take long for the civilization to split into rival factions, with one side worshipping Tweek instead. Predictably, it all ends in a tiny shrimp apocalypse, proving once and for all that with great knowledge comes the unavoidable reality of blowing yourselves up.
But I guess this proves that war is the natural order of life.
Why can't societies just live in peace?
In the midst of all the madness, Butters finally learns the valuable lesson. Originality is dead, and no idea will ever top The Simpsons. But hey, who needs originality anyway?
I think I can go back to trying to destroy the world again.
Emphasis on trying. Anyway, Tweek's run as Kenny's replacement didn't pan out well either, and so in Season 6, Episode 12, A Ladder to Heaven, the boys decide to ditch the replacements and go visit their missing buddy. When the military is involved and the whole town celebrating, you know it isn't anything good. The episode begins with Stan, Kyle, and Cartman heading over to the candy store to cash in on their free shopping spree, except there's one small problem. The ticket stub they need is with Kenny. Yeah, the same Kenny who's been dead since December.
You hold on to this, Cartman. I might lose it.
No, I'll lose it for sure. You keep track of it, Kyle.
No, I don't want that much responsibility. Here, you hold on to it, Kenny.
And that, folks, is why you never pass on a responsibility. Desperate to get their hands on candy, the boys head over to Kenny's house, where they learn that his remains is now in an urn. And since this is the boys we're talking about, they have no idea what an urn is. So they break into Kenny's house and steal his urn, expecting to find the ticket stub inside. Instead, what they find is a whole bunch of nothing.
What the hell is this? Chocolate milk mix? I knew Kenny couldn't fit in that teapot.
God damn it, this isn't even good chocolate milk mix!
Let's be real, this doesn't even scratch the surface when it comes to Cartman. And since we're already in Crazy Land, Population Cartman, he mixes the ashes into milk and drinks them. Don't gotta tell you, that ends pretty badly, but we'll get to that one later. The next day, Kyle has the genius idea of building a ladder to heaven. That way, the boys can retrieve their ticket from Kenny. Except this isn't a town where you do anything unnoticed, so it takes about 2 minutes for their operation to blow up. Soon the entire town and then the entire country is crying over a ladder to heaven. They even get a song out of it because exploiting tragedy is basically the country music playbook.
Where were you when they built the ladder to heaven?
And it's kind of catchy, I must admit. As the whole thing becomes an international sensation, Japan decides to build its own ladder, and just like that, heaven is the next space race, which of course means the US military gets involved, and you best believe they're not joking around.
Alpha Team, get that support structure up! Yes, sir!
Where were you when they saved that ladder to heaven?
Dude's absolutely milking it. Can't hate the hustle. The race to heaven continues to heat up with Japan even faking a heaven landing, and let's just say they were cash strapped, okay? And just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, the US gets word that Saddam Hussein is building weapons of mass destruction in heaven. And yes, everyone just casually goes along with this idea.
51% of Americans think Saddam has to be dealt with. 49% are wimpy, tree-hugging pussies.
We're on heaven, only in America, folks. While all that's going on, Cartman starts having weird flashbacks of Kenny's memories. You know, just the usual side effects from drinking cremated remains. But hey, silver lining is Kenny's memories reveal the location of their winning ticket. Turns out the ticket stub wasn't in Kenny. It was locked away safely all along. A few planks to the head later, and Cartman manages to retrieve the ticket. The boys end their ladder building venture, leaving them to deal with a very confused group of adults.
Are you saying that you boys only wanted to build a ladder to heaven so you could get some candy?
I've never heard the words only and candy in the same sentence before.
Honestly, Cartman has a point. Candy is serious business. The saga rounds up by saying heaven isn't a real place. It is simply an idea. Still, this wouldn't be a South Park storyline without a final reveal, and as it turns out, Saddam Hussein was actually building weapons of mass destruction in heaven all along, disguised as chocolate chip factories. Huh.
No! Weapons of mass destruction? This is a chocolate chip factory. See?
We have Saddam's heavenly chocolate chips before GTA 6. Let that sink in, folks. And there we have it. Kenny's still technically dead. Cartman's possessed by Kenny, I guess, kind of. And the boys nearly caused World War III in heaven. Oh, and did I mention Kenny's still dead? Just thought you'd like the reminder. So Kenny's now in Cartman, and we're pretty much in Game 6 of this whole saga, which leads us to Season 6, Episode 15, the biggest in the universe.
The victim child?
The child that we sacrificed so we can put Kenny's soul into its body.
If you haven't already strapped in, you might want to do that right now. So we kick off with Cartman rushed to the hospital. Turns out Kenny's ghost isn't exactly a compatible organ donor, and so Cartman is now running out of time, literally.
What can we do?
Well, I suppose we could try a time transplant.
South Park's healthcare, still better than whatever the hell my insurance covers. Chef finds out and decides Cartman's only hope is John Edward. You know, the guy from TV who pretends to talk to dead people for cash? So they go off to New York, and surprise, surprise, the trip ends up being a complete waste of time, as all they meet is a man who's as psychic as a magic 8-ball in a garbage disposal.
I'm getting Mike. Definitely an M. Maybe Matt. Mike. Mary.
Mary was my mother!
New Yorkers in a nutshell, folks. With the psychic solution ending as a bust, Chef decides to get serious and take Cartman all the way to Scotland. There, Chef's parents, who apparently specialize in voodoo, offer to perform an exorcism. Everything is going smoothly, but there's a little issue of a victim child to transfer Kenny's soul into.
Oh, Lord, they didn't bring a victim child.
Why were we going to find a child?
We weren't going to ask you where you got it from.
Yeah, because that's clearly the issue here. Meanwhile, back in America, Kyle gets sucked in by John Edward's fake psychic reading. Edward claims Kyle's grandma wants him to enroll in Juilliard, which is basically Juilliard, but for Jews. Stan tries to convince Kyle that Edward is a scam artist, but Kyle ain't having it. So Stan decides to confront Edward himself, only to discover that the psychic is even more of a fragile crybaby than he thought.
Then you're a stupid.
I think I've had enough of your bullying me. I'll run upstairs, lock myself in my panic room, and call the police.
Frustrated, Stan decides to expose Edward for being a fraud, which in his case involves demonstrating how easy psychic scams are, but unfortunately for him, he ends up accidentally convincing an entire crowd that he's actually a psychic himself. One thing leads to another, he gets his own psychic show, reluctantly, and just when you think things couldn't possibly get any weirder, it leads to a psychic showdown.
And I challenge you to a psychic showdown. I'll prove to the world.
Two fake psychics arguing over who's more psychic. Welcome to television, kids. And let's just say the showdown was not what you'd expect. Long story short, Stan manages to convince the crowd not to fall for psychic tricks. John ends up throwing a fit on stage, and aliens drop out of nowhere to make a big announcement.
Mr. Edward, you have been nominated for biggest in the universe.
If aliens travel billions of miles just to call you a buddy, you earned it. Back in Scotland, things have gotten from insane to completely absurd. Chef's parents successfully exorcised Kenny's soul from Cartman, but with no spare kid around to sacrifice, Kenny's ghost settles into the next best thing, a delicious home-cooked pot roast. Yeah, Kenny went from a child to a dead child to chocolate milk mix to a roast dinner. Truly a glowing resume of reincarnation. But because nothing ever goes smoothly in South Park, Chef and Cartman forgot Kenny the pot roast a baggage claim on their return flight. Unfortunately, this pot roast catches the attention of Rob Schneider, who's about to star in his newest film.
Rob Schneider is Kenny. Rated PG-13.
Between starring in a Rob Schneider movie and Eternal Darkness, the latter sounds very much nicer, thank you. And finally, we get to the moment we've all been waiting for, because in the finale of Season 6, Red Sleigh Down, we finally get full closure on the fate of Kenny McCormick.
Lock and load. We're going in.
Oh boy. The episode kicks off with a heavy dose of Cartman shenanigans again. This time he's trying to calculate his place on Santa's nice list, and shocker, it's not going too hot. After enlisting Kyle's cousin as his tiny neurotic accountant, Cartman finds out he's racked up over 4,000 counts of being a little gremlin, which by the way means he now owes Santa 306 presents.
If you cured cancer and AIDS next week, you would still owe 2 presents. Jesus Christ!
I mean, is anyone really surprised? Now, the problem for Cartman is that Christmas is tomorrow morning and he's dying to get his hands on the brand new toy. Kyle's cousin crunches the numbers, and according to his estimates, the only way Cartman gets off the naughty list by Christmas morning is to do the greatest nice thing anyone's ever done ever. Which of course leads to the brilliant plan of trying to fix Christmas in the Middle East.
Guys, get those lights down from the door. We'll give them to the needy Iraqis too. They don't have Christmas there, guys. We have to give it to them.
I mean, it's a noble cause, but considering it's Cartman we're dealing with here, you can already see the screw-up from a mile away. Now, get to the presents to Iraq. A certain Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh, don't laugh, shows up and tells them to hop aboard the Pooh-Choo train, don't laugh. He tells them to visit Santa in the North Pole. They arrive at Santa's fortress because apparently he's Superman now, and convince him to do a Christmas goodwill mission over Baghdad. Santa's down for it. The gnomes get the sleigh ready. He jets off to Iraq, and I'll leave it at this. Unidentified flying objects only have one certain fate in Baghdadi skies.
Merry Christmas. I'm hit! I'm hit!
Red Sleigh Down! Christmas is officially canceled and Santa is now a POW. So Santa's getting tortured. Cartman cries because his robot toy dreams are up in smoke, at which point the boys realize that there was a catch to his behavior after all. I mean, go figure, really. But just when all hope looks lost, the boys remember that there's one man you can always rely on to save the day, and let's just say he's sporting a halo and packing a lot of heat.
Lock and load. We're going in.
And now we enter Die Hard territory. So Jesus leads the crew into Baghdad. They get the drop on a couple of Iraqis, and for the most part, the mission's going pretty well. They track down Santa and rescue him, but since every story needs a twist, we end up with one that might just get you thrown in a jail cell in the Vatican City.
Get up the stairs. The sleigh is on the roof.
Jesus, behind you!
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment on that. Enraged, Santa pretty much turns into Rambo. He mows down a small militia with dual-wielded guns, escapes with the kids, and then instead of just flying home, starts bombing the entire city with Christmas. Which, no matter how hard I think about it, makes absolutely no sense that he just didn't do that in the first place. I mean, look at this.
RPG, 4 o'clock!
Duke could have literally just taken out the terrorists in the first place and, I don't know, avoided Jesus' death? Anyway, Santa saves the day, brings joy to the Middle East, and comes home just in time to light South Park's Christmas tree right after Jimmy finishes singing the world's slowest, most coma-inducing version of the 12 Days of Christmas. And finally, the boys open their presents only to find they all got Haibo dolls.
Oh, God damn it! Cartman, I thought all you wanted was a Haibo doll. Yeah, but not if you guys have one too. God damn it, I'll never try to be nice again.
Welcome back, Cartman. Welcome back. And speaking of welcomes, guess who decided to walk into frame like nothing happened?
Oh, hey, Kenny.
And that, folks, is how you wrap up a season-long saga. That's all for today, but if you're still craving some crazy cartoon timelines, feel free to check out this other video, and I'll see you on the next one.